Hey everybody, this is a video specifically for sound for move camp, but generally it's about duckers. So we're using them at move camp, but they're really useful for lots of other applications too. So I'm just going to go over how they work and how we get there. So first, the camp specific things. I've set up a scene for move camp that is Move 2019, Scene 20, all locked up. So that's a good starting place for the move camp. And what I've done in that scene is a couple things. On this E layer that is usually our empty layer, I've filled it with just the things we'll need for camp. So that's the two handhelds, the two lavs, all four of those speech mics get used in conjunction with big dance party music and the songs they're leading the kids in through the iMac. So the PC is there as well. Here's the thing that got added though, is instead of sending these four vocals to the main mix, which they normally are, they would have this on light on all these, I lifted them off the main mix and put them on a group. So this group has the on light. This group is on the main mix. And if I select a group, the drums actually work like this, by the way. I hit this vocal group that I've made, and then I hit routing. And I can see that these four mics are the members of this group right now. So the four vocal mics are going to this Vox group, and that Vox group is going to the main mix. So if I mute the main mix, I've muted everything in it. So I've got the blue handheld held here so I can just show it. Check, check, check. There's my handheld, but this group is muted, so I hear nothing. I muted the group and it's coming in well. So here is how a ducker works. I have on the iMac, so I go back to this iMac channel and look at its compressor setting. I've picked the ducker compressor. So under this library, there's lots of compressors to choose from, and I've chosen this ducker. So this is showing that when the sound gets up to this threshold level that you set, when it passes it, it drops the output by this depth, this amount that you get to set as well. So what's working, the way this is working, is this isn't being fed by itself. Like normally a compressor is being fed by itself. If you have a compressed bass guitar, it's reading the bass guitar level and acting on the bass guitar itself. A ducker uses something called sidechaining or keying, where though it's acting on the iMac, so this compressor is acting on the music from the iMac, but what's feeding the compressor, what the compressor is reading to get its info from, is this vocal group. I could pick a sidechain source, and I could pick groups or single inputs or a number of different things, and I've picked this vocal group. So all of these four mics, all these four speech mics, are feeding this compressor. So when I turn this handheld on and talk, you see it's level jumping there on the left. So it's reading this vocal group but acting on the music. And here's what that sounds like. 1, 2, hey, hey, hey. I'm going to set the threshold a little lower. One, two, three. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. So this helps the music get out of the way of the people that are speaking. That's the whole point of it. If I were doing this at like a wedding reception and I wanted background music to get out of the way every time they called a new table, I would use a crazy depth but make the release time really slow so that the music faded out really slowly. The music faded back in really slowly after the person walked away. So here that's not what we're using it for. We just want the music to duck down a little bit to make the voices heard. So you're probably going to find that you only need a depth of somewhere between 3 and 5 dB is my guess. But the threshold really matters. If this threshold is too low, that little ducking will happen like all the time because there's 4 open mics on in a room full of screaming kids. So if you're above the threshold all the time, it's not doing you any favors. So you've got to set this threshold high enough that it's only getting triggered when someone's actually yelling into their mic or singing into their mic really strong. So if you set that just right and set the right amount of depth, it won't be perceived that the music's totally cutting out on you, but just that it will be turning down a little bit to help push that voice through. And that's coming on really quickly, not holding for long, and coming off really quickly. So that's just an advantage when you've got people kind of singing through or singing over background music that you want big and loud and pumping as well. This ducker really helps to just give those voices that edge when they need it, but still keep the music big and lively and high energy. So this is kind of what radio DJs use all the time. It's set up so that the DJ mic will always win over the music that's playing. And that's what we're trying to achieve here, but not to the same extent. We just want that little push, just that little 4 dB depth, 4 dB drop down every time someone is trying to be heard over the music. So that's where that's going to be a little tricky to play with that threshold, is it's just when people are actually trying to lead the kids and they're singing loudly or speaking loudly, the music dips down a little bit while the speech level is high, and then the music comes back up to full volume as soon as no one's speaking. So that's the fun thing to play with. Just like every compressor, you can always just turn it off if it's not working in your favor. So if you find it's causing more harm than good, just cut this out, just bypass it in the moment, and the music won't be affected by those vocal mics at all. But really, I think the speeds are pretty good. It's just the threshold and the depth that you would play with. Yorkson has a very similar thing on the lower right-hand corner of the screen for every channel. And I have set up there an aux mix. So instead of being an audio group that the sound's actually running through, like I have done here, over there it's a second, it's like a monitor mix that goes to nobody's monitor, where you can just send your speech mics to that monitor mix, and the ducker on the music on the PC channel is reading that monitor mix to figure out, to respond to and turn the music down based on. So you can play with that at Yorkson as well, but this is how it works here on the D-Live. And that again is saved to scene 20, which is labeled Move 2019.